matters. So,
Well, I was talking to Alex Mutavelis yesterday, and he said he was watching our episodes, and he said, he's Greek. His dad owns that Greek restaurant there, and he said, "Yeah, I was talking to my dad about your episode." He's like, he can't remember anything, but he remembered that whole roster when Tyler played. He's like, Tyler Smith, one of the best basketball players I've ever watched. He's like, he
that's
remembered everybody.
that's funny. That he must be a real diehard then, because I always chuckle when somebody if I run into somebody that has been a Penn State basketball fan for a long time and was around like during rec hall days, and I didn't play during rec hall days, but if they've been around that long, then they've seen a lot of people. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm like a pasty white blonde dude that's really tall, and there's not a lot of us out there. I don't blend in real well, so I think that's helpful to if you want to stand out. But my dad would always say, "Listen, if you get in trouble, everybody's gonna know because you look like anybody else." I was like, "Thanks, Dad. I'll try to keep my nose clean." I did for the most part.
Yeah, like I said, there's not a lot of people that because I'm technically 6'2". With when I have shoes on, I'm over 6'2", but I'm 6'1". I just say I'm 6'1". But there's not a lot of people I look up at. But you're one of those people for sure because you're 6'9". So
Yeah, well, it is funny if I run into somebody as tall or taller, I think, "Wow, that person's real tall." I think, well, that's probably how a lot of people see me, and I get the funniest questions. Like I remember I work with a medical device company. I'm in hospitals a lot, and one of the nurses, she like kind of had these big eyes, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, do you live in a special house?" I was like, I wish I did. That'd be awesome, But no, I still have to duck in some places in my house too. Um, but it's funny. We bought a house years ago, and it happened to have 9-foot ceilings. I wasn't looking for one with 9-foot ceilings, but it does. And I'm like, this is kind of nice. I'll take it.
well, yeah, when you walk into Victory, you duck.
Yeah, the
You
victory
just
doorways. Yeah, I always, because all it takes is one time, and you remember that pain. It's like
yeah,
anything else in life. You make a dumb mistake, you always remember that pain. Not going to make that again. Make that
yep,
mistake again.
yep, yep.
I had another guy. I went. It was the first time I was working with this one doctor in the operating room, and the doctor happened to be really short. I mean, he was like barely over 5 feet, and he looks up at me and he's like, "It's the first time we met, and like he literally is coming in to like start this surgery, and he looks up at me and he's like, oh, because we hadn't worked together before, and he goes, you how tall do you have some kind of disease what's that disease?" And he like rattled off like all these like, I don't know, growth problem diseases. I was like, not that I know of, but thanks for making me worry about it now.
Yeah, like Andre the Giant or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he was freaking massive, man. God, he said he could drink like 50 beers and not even have a buzz because he was so big.
Yeah, he was massive. And you couldn't really appreciate it probably like seeing him on TV, but I'm sure if you saw him in person, it was just like, who is this enormous creature?
Yeah, well, there's a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think he's like 6'1", 6'2", and he's huge.
Yeah.
But there's a picture of him next to Andre the Giant and Wilt Chamberlain for this one movie, and he looks like a child
Oh my
next to them.
gosh. That's funny. That'd be a fun. I'll have to look that up.
But yeah, you said you were guarding Yao Ming that one time, and you were like at his belly button or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I mean, dude was 7'5", and that was not an exaggeration. I was like, this is insane. I had a teammate that was 7'2", and he was massive. And one of my favorite memories playing with him was we were playing in Holland, and we were down by one, and there was 1 second left, or maybe like less than a second, like zero point 0.4 or something, and we had the ball underneath um, the other team's basket. So our coach puts him in, and he says, "All right, just throw it up right at the rim, and you're just gonna like tap it in." And so they had like one or two of their guy, and their tallest guy was only like maybe 6'8" or something. And so, sure enough, man, it was awesome. He threw it up, and these two defenders are like climbing all over him, like trying to like push him and pull him down. And he just like this big, strong dude just jumped up, like tapped it in, game over at the buzzer.
Well, you had a teammate that reminded me of Horace Grant. Big center, just like a big guy. Was it Booth? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Well, Booth, yeah, but Booth was more center. He was tall though, man, 6'11", and he was, man, his wingspan. You know how they say your wingspan's about as what your height is? Well, he had an 88-inch wingspan, which was just like massive, and size 19 shoes. And you don't have much of a shoe selection when you have size 19 shoes. So, but yeah, that guy, he's pretty tall dude, man.
I saw this picture the other day of Miles Garrett in high school, next to his teammates, and I'm like, he just didn't even look real. Like he was just, you're like, how do you? He's just born that way. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
Um, you can't like you're just born like that, man. Like look at that.
Yeah. Oh my fully grown human amongst some kids.
But he said that's my D tackle teammate and two offensive tackles. Then there's him. Like, dude, what the heck, man? That's
That's awesome.
insane.
That is awesome, man. When you just get just a handful of really unique, just like freaks of nature that are just like born huge, athletic. It's, guys like him, guys like LeBron in high school. I mean, LeBron's been a star since he was like
Hmm.
16, 17 years old. He hit the national scene on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and very much has lived up to the hype and then some.
Well, they called him the chosen one because he was just so gifted. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
one thing I'm not the biggest LeBron guy, but one thing I've always respected about him is that he had fame at that young age, and you've never really heard of him being in any type of trouble or anything bad about LeBron James. So a big kudos to him being that
Yes.
famous that
Yes.
young, and he's
Yes.
never,
Because
you
yeah,
know,
there's countless stories of guys that just make train wrecks of their life.
yeah,
And
yeah.
when you get that much fame, that much money so fast, because you like, I mean, so many of us are just knuckleheads when we're in our teenage years because it's just part of the way the human brain works. And then you throw in like all this attention and stuff at you. Like, how do you begin? You're not mature enough to like handle all that, process it. So I give him a lot of credit for that. I'm the same way, right? I mean, he's not like my favorite player or anything, but like he handled it about as well or better than almost anybody else probably could.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, I'm gonna ask you about the Luka Doncic trade, but I want to get into Penn State here. We've lost four straight, as you can see here on the screen. We are 13-10. We just keep dropping games. It sucks, but um, Purdue is number one at 19-5, and we just lost to Iowa by one, Michigan by four, Ohio State by, well, we got smoked by them, and then lost to Minnesota. So, and you've been going to the games. You were at the Ohio State game, right? Was that the whiteout?
I missed Ohio State, but I was at the Minnesota game earlier this week. Was that Monday?
I
Went
think
to
so.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and man, just what a frustrating stretch for these guys, because I know earlier we were talking about, shoot, the first half of the season they were looking so strong. You had the good Purdue win. You're showing some really good signs of uh, just this team really building towards making the tournament. And then, you have a loss here, you have a loss there. Then all of a sudden it just like kind of snowballs. You have the injury to Puff Johnson, now the injury to Yannick, a big center. And it's like, oh man, we are just not in a good spot. And the Iowa loss by one, boy, that was frustrating and disappointing for those guys. And then the Michigan game, I felt like they didn't play that great, but well enough to like be in the game. And then all of a sudden they made this run in the second half in the last few minutes, and they had the lead. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we got the lead. And you need one stop. And this guy hits this tough step back three. And I think that put Michigan up by one, so put Michigan up by two. And then they just added a couple free throws, and Penn State, lost by four. But holy smokes, that was tough. And then Michigan State, I thought they actually played really tough at Michigan State. But I mean, it's so hard to win at Michigan State. I think that's arguably the hardest place to win in the Big Ten. Ohio State that wasn't pretty. But then the Minnesota one this week, they I think it was 6 minutes and 20 seconds or so before they got their first bucket. And I was like, oh boy, this could be a long night. But thankfully, Minnesota wasn't scoring much either. And Penn State, second half, like a few minutes to go, and they were leading, and then Minnesota rattled off a couple of threes and just kind of started to break the game open a little bit. But not having a guy like Puff, who may not be your leading scorer, but he does so many things. I mean, with his size and length, he's a glue guy, but like more than a glue guy. Like just such a great attitude, great worker, plays hard D and can score. And when you lose that guy, it's like, that can be more devastating than losing like your top scorer. So I felt bad for the guys that some of these injuries have just been really banging. I know it sounded like Ace, maybe, the commentators were talking about how he had some back issues that were bugging him and stuff. So, I mean, at this point in the season, so many teams are banged up, but you have to find ways to win. And nobody's going to feel sorry for you. And I remember as a player, just thinking like nobody's going to feel sorry for. Like you got to be the ones to get it done. And a lot of people want to point fingers at the coach. And we talked about this with Franklin. It's like Franklin's not going to make the tackle for you. He's not going to make the block. And I had a coach one time that we were having a bad season. We were losing a lot of games. And he's like, guys, like, this is my fault. Like, I'm not. And he was taking all this ownership. And I'm like, how can our coach like be saying this? Like we have to make the shots. Like coach will never play a single second in any game. And so I know that's really hard. So, if anybody that's played sports for long enough has been through a season like this, and they've been in times like this, and I can remember my share of them, and it is incredibly frustrating. But that being said, like you just get up and you go to freaking work again. And you get up and you say, okay, today is a new day. And if you lose again, okay, today is a new day. And you keep going out. And that's the only way you can handle it. And ultimately, it always reveals your character of who you are. And it reveals what you're willing to do to try and turn things around. And I had plenty of guys on teams that just, when things are going great, man, they're great. But when things aren't going great, oh man, like they just turn into like another person's sour attitude, just pointing fingers, like real short fuse. And I said, these are the kinds of times where when things suck and everything is crumbling around you, are you going to find a way to stand tall and get back to work, or are you just going to lose your mind? And I think that's the only way you can handle it. Unfortunately, I think they've got a good group of guys, great group of coaches that I hope will be sticking together to kind of fight through this tough stretch in their season.
Yeah, to finish out, I mean, it's not an easy stretch for sure. But the season's almost over, and then they'll have the Big Ten tournament. And I believe everybody gets into that, right?
Well, no. So I think the with as many teams as they have now, I think they not everybody gets in, and I'd have to look it up because I should know this, but I don't think everybody gets into the Big Ten tournament now. I mean, it used to be like okay, everybody will get in, but there's buys, but I don't think that's the case now.
Okay. Well, do they still have a shot? Do they have a shot at making the tournament? Probably not.
Uh, I don't think the tournament is really likely now. It's with the kind of the way things have gone, especially with some of their injuries. I just don't know that that is as realistic of an option for them. Maybe they can get in the NIT, maybe, but it's like you got to take it real small goals. It's like, listen, man, we just got to find a way to at least win at least one of these on our West Coast trips because they're at UCLA. They play here in about 45 minutes. And then they'll stay out there, go to USC on Tuesday. And, the USC is playing real well lately. So I think they certainly have their work cut out for them. But, listen, anything could happen, man. I mean, you lose a few in a row, and then all of a sudden you can turn around and win 4 in a row. And like crazier things have happened, and you've seen that like every year in the Big Ten or not big in the NCAA tournament, they'll talk about teams that like all of a sudden just get hot right before March hits, and for whatever reason, maybe they just sense a little bit more urgency, and man, we're coming to the end here, or guys just finally it starts coming together because it takes a while. I mean, not teams are never at their best in like November and early December because everybody's still trying to figure each other out. So yeah, I'm excited to watch them play today, and hopefully they'll find some ways to get some wins.
Well, Tyler, I look forward to covering March Madness with you. And I hate to say it, but it'll be cool to follow some good, teams that are actually having some success and just talking about that in March Madness. Because if you make the tournament, that's a big accomplishment. So I look forward to talking with that stuff with you.
Yeah.
Since Penn State's not really in the picture anymore, but you're right. I have hope that they'll get some wins, turn it around. But being that they're not really in the hunt anymore, like who do you think is gonna win it all and have success in the tournament and possibly win it all?
I Auburn clearly is like just having an amazing season. Those guys are really talented. UConn, I mean, shoot, I think they had a couple of losses, or there was something around Bobby Hurley, I think, losing his cool or something, which he's been known to be pretty fiery. But so those guys are going to be really dangerous also because they're talented and man, they just seem to be really hungry and kind of follow the lead of their coach. So who is very very demanding. So I think those are the two teams for me that I'll be watching. Michigan State is good, but I feel like I don't know. Sometimes expectations are so high for them. It seems like they're underachieving, even though they're such a successful program. But people want to see them like make the Final Four and win another championship. But it's been a little while since that's happened.
Well, you look at Alabama, for example. I mean, historically, they're not a basketball school, and they're really good now. I forget that one player they had that was really good that went to the NBA. He had I think it was a gun charge or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I forget his name.
But I mean, I kind of compare us to like the Alabama basketball of like Penn State and Alabama, two football schools, but Alabama basketball turned it around. I think we can do that too. I think eventually we'll be there.
Yeah,
Good, we'll be a good solid team.
yeah.
So competing every year. I mean, they have that 4-star kid coming in, but yeah, man, we got the coaches. That's the most important thing. We definitely have good coaching for sure,
Yeah, yeah,
and just Joe Crispin. I mean, his experience, what he's done, the success he's had. He's a great mind to have there, a great mentor. So I'm confident going forward. But
yeah.
I guess it's what top four gets the top four seeds, right?
Yeah, they'd all be number one seeds, like in their region, and
Mm-hmm.
then you filter down from there. I haven't seen Duke play very much this year, just a few highlights, but that one kid, is it Cooper Flag? Man, he's fun to watch.
Yeah, yeah, he is. I think he's from New Hampshire, Delaware, Maine. Is it Maine?
Yeah, I think it is Maine.
It's somewhere up in there, you
I
know,
think it might be Maine, which is kind of funny because
on the map.
it's not like Maine's a hotbed for basketball, all stars.
Well, the one podcast I watch, RX Muscle, which is a bodybuilding channel, one of the coaches on there who uh, legendary coach, has multiple Olympia titles under his belt with Jay Cutler, and the list goes on and on if you know bodybuilding. But he talked about him that one time because he's from Maine, this guy, and he's like Cooper Flag. He's like he's a freak.
That's
Um,
cool. That's really cool.
and I think he knew about it because his sons were basketball guys. Now they're into bodybuilding. They have insane genetics. But he talked about Cooper Flag. This was like, because what is he, a freshman?
Freshman. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's already a freak.
Yeah, and he was playing with
Um,
the Olympic team over the summer.
well, that's like, I think Christian Leitner, he played on the All Star team
Right.
because he was so good, and then like Kobe played on the All Star team because he was so good. You have guys like that are so good in college they can literally play in the Olympics. Like
Yeah.
they're that good. So he'll be one and done, right? Is that still?
Yeah. Yeah. Because the NBA still has that rule where you got to be a year out of high school. And a handful of guys now will go to the G League that play there. Um, Used to be
Mhm.
maybe guys could go overseas, but I don't think guys want to do that because that's too far away and it's too
Mhm.
uncomfortable for an 18-year-old typically to want to travel to a foreign country. But and it's like, but now it makes more sense to just go to college and get paid a bunch of money. I mean, these guys have such sweet setups now. Even if like let's say you're a kid who has a really good head on his shoulders and realizes, hey, I may not be like, an NBA star. I might not even make the NBA. Like I might be kind of borderline, but I'm still a really good college player. You're going to make so much stinking money in college with zero expenses. It's insane.
Yeah.
Like I can't imagine making the kind of money like as an adult, you know, husband, dad, like owning a house, like and making the money these guys are making,
Yeah.
So you just hope like I laugh because I remember thinking that a couple $100 like for meal money over like winter break was a lot of money. And yeah, it's wild, but it's the world they're in, and so hope that they get some really good guys around them to utilize that money because like that's life changing money for a lot of these guys. If
Mhm.
you invest it well.
It is, man. Yeah. And I hope they do it the right thing and put it in the market and stuff. That's the best thing you can do
Yep.
to grow it. Um, I started investing when I was 29. I'm 32 now, and it's already grown quite a bit. So, like people gamble, they do sports gambling and all that, and you're not guaranteed to make a profit, but when you put it in the stock market, pretty much guaranteed to make a profit. So,
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable with how finances work. I got a fun app on my phone. It's called Compounder, and all it is just punching in money and the interest rate you earn on it, and then how many years it would stay. And if you start investing like as a teenager, as a early 20s, there's no reason that you shouldn't be a multi-millionaire for sure by the time you retire, because you're talking like 40 years, or a lot sooner, and I show this to my kids because like I was really interested in like earning money as a kid and like having little jobs here and there and saving and whatever, but I didn't really understand the power of investing, the power of compounding. And I certainly do now, but I'm 45. It's like, man, shoot, had I known, like, even like 25, $50 a month or something putting away, like that adds up. It's crazy. But I tell my kids all this. I'm like, listen, there is no reason that even if you go and have just a very regular average job, that you shouldn't be a multimillionaire by doing the simplest stuff. You don't have to have some ridiculous talent or, God's blessed you with this amazing ability that nobody else has that's super unique. Like, you don't have to be that 0.001%. Like, everyday people should be millionaires. And as a guy I love to follow, Dave Ramsey, and he talks about that. It's like the simplest stuff, But yeah. Anyway, it's interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm the guy that if I get like $25 for Christmas, it's going to the stock market. The $5 coffee I don't buy goes right to the stock market. So just put it in there, man. Just whatever you can do, just put it in. When my sister turned 18, her gift from me was money and a investment account.
Awesome.
And she's 18. She has no idea the importance of that. And I said, I wish I did it when I was 18. But it's already grown, and I said, try to put money in it every month. I don't think she does, but it's still grown. You know what I mean? So when you're young, you don't think about that stuff. But if you do start investing when you're 18, like, it's gonna grow.
Oh yeah. You will have enormous amounts of money that like you can't even believe. But everybody check out that app. It's called Compounder, and it's free. It's super simple, and I love just playing around with it. Like, well, what if I added, an extra $100 each month to put away? What if it actually gained a percentage more than I think it was, or 3% more? And it's just like insane, So it's a fun one.
I don't know if you can see my phone, but I actually have that. I have that on my.
Awesome.
I have that on my phone. So
yes, that's the one. That's the one.
It's good stuff, man. And there was a story of a guy the other day I saw. He worked like a freaking parking lot in a booth at a parking lot, making like $12 an hour. And by the time he retired, he's worth like $500,000.
It's phenomenal.
Just because he put his money in the stock market. It's crazy, but
yep. And you got to be willing to let it go up and down a little bit. I mean, as I look back at like my investment journey, like there's definitely years where it was like, phew, but so you have to have like your long term money, which you don't even touch. And then like, your midterm and your short-term money. And if you're going to need to save to buy, a car or an apartment, a house, whatever. But it's fun. It's always been something that's been interesting to me. I've got an uncle who's an investment advisor, so he's been really great in kind of helping me to learn about it and show different options of what's possible. And now just, with all the different investment opportunities online and stuff even, and it's really fun stuff to learn about.